Welcome, Greek U Nation. It's episode number 591 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our sixth book just came out. It's called I'm So Beautiful, It's Ridiculous. Unleashing and promoting strength, self-worth, and real sisterhood. So go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring college students together. Fun fact, we just don't talk about mental health in fraternities and sororities enough. It was never a topic in our fraternity new member education program when I joined 30 years ago, but I certainly understood the need for authentic friendships and a support system in college. I would not have been successful as a student without that support system. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about mental health on college campuses with our next guest. Wes Woodson is a nationally recognized youth mental health speaker and author and founder of the Wes Woodson Company, a creative education and media company on a mission to help schools and universities activate self-belief in their students. With a focus on emotional safety, student leadership, and self-worth, Wes partners with institutions to deliver impactful keynotes, orientation experiences, and leadership trainings that equip young people with the emotional tools they need to succeed both in and out of the classroom. At the heart of Wes's work is a simple, powerful idea. Students can't thrive if they don't feel safe to be themselves. Through a combination of storytelling, psychology, and practical strategies, Wes helps educators and administrators create emotionally supportive environments where students are seen, heard, and empowered to believe in themselves. Welcome to the show, Wes.
Oh man, brother, I appreciate this. I'm so grateful to be here, and that intro made me smile from ear to ear, truthfully.
Listen, I'm available. If you want to just pack me up in your suitcase and take me around the country, I will do intros for you every day. No problem.
I was gonna say, can I just like take that last sound bite and just before I go on stage, just play that. Just play that.
I tell you what, take this video, embed it on your website, and just hit play, and you got it every single day, bro.
That's gonna be in my speaker reel in 2026. Just
All
like the
right,
first of that, and then go the montage. But I'm
bet, bet. So, I wanted to talk a little bit more with you, Wes, because like I said in the intro, man, I just don't think that we're talking about mental health enough. And it was so interesting for me to hear a little bit about your experience growing up. It seemed like you really didn't feel like you fit in most of the time as a kid. What was that like for you?
Yeah, so I grew up in a predominantly white town,
Hmm.
and I grew up being one of the few people of color in my classroom. So when I go to school, I walk in, my teacher doesn't look like me, my friends don't look like me, and I grew up in a predominantly white Jewish community too. So I identify I'm a Christian, but growing up in a Jewish space, I think I have the world record for the most bar and bat mitzvahs attended in a weekend. You know what I mean? Truly, but. I always had this feeling internally that I felt too white for the black kids who were in the classroom, and then too black for the other white kids, or too white for the black kids too. And it was this weird in between. And with that in between, it created all these other things, such as self-doubt, sense of like, why am I even in this classroom? Do I belong in this classroom? And there was this one kind of quote my parents would always tell me. They were always like, Wes, as a kid of color, you have to work twice as hard to be considered just as good. And like I know parents they want to motivate you to do your homework well and do well in school, but sometimes like those messages they make us internalize these negative beliefs because the thing that I was thinking was like, what happens if I'm not good enough? Like, what happens if I actually bring a failing grade home? Which I did. And I found out quickly that my parents weren't happy. And I was like, oh no, you know? And I actually learned very much earlier on that what I started to internalize was performance equaled love. The more I performed good in the classroom or well enough in the classroom, the more my parents would love me. That's what I believe. It wasn't necessarily true, but I believed that.
Yeah.
And the older I got, that belief became almost the narration of my entire experience. That's what it felt like. And it created such amount of deep amount of social anxiety, which led to depression, that I learned how to better navigate.
Yeah. I mean, this is present, in a lot of different communities. This performance equals love. That's a really interesting concept that I never really thought about until the moment you said it. Because my parents are both from Israel. So I am Jewish too. I also hold the record for the most bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs attended. You and I could probably tell stories
Of
about all
course.
the wild times at bar and bat mitzvahs. But But yeah, I mean, the same thing. I mean, as a son of immigrants to this country, certainly they said the same thing to me. I mean, in terms of performance equals love. If I didn't perform and I came home with bad grades, or my teacher wanted a conference with my parents to talk about me misbehaving in class or whatever,
Yep.
that it was a bad day for me. Like, it was a bad day. Things are not going well. They definitely expected that I was going to outperform the rest of the class. Like that was just an expectation. And so, what does that do over a lifetime when you're continuously being sent those messages, right? So fascinating to me. And the other thing that's interesting about you too is you chose Babson College for your undergraduate experience. So I'm wondering, why did you choose to go to school at Babson?
So, if I'm being honest,
Yeah.
because I wasn't so good in the classroom, I had to find a different way to either like not only make friends, because I also struggled to make friends.
Mhm.
I think growing up in a predominantly white space where no one looked like you, I could choose like one or two routes. I could be the class clown, or I could be the candy salesman. So I chose to be the candy salesman. I was the one who always was selling snacks. I had this scheme when I was in middle school where they would give us these like skinny lockers, these little skinny locker spaces. And I saw that all of my friends would always be late in between classes because they would like forget the textbook that they had from the last class and what they needed for this class. So they'd stop at their skinny locker to get their textbook. And I saw there was a space of unutilized or unused lockers that were not being used at all during construction. So I went to the dollar store. I bought a bunch of locks, and I was gonna start leasing out these like locker space. It was a little scheme. I got caught. That scheme was no good. But I had this like entrepreneurial spirit to me at a very early age. And I never forget it. One day I was flying from Boston to Southern California, Sacramento, California, because when I was in high school, I was on the speech and debate program. And this was my sophomore year. So I'm basically in the prime age of like thinking about college. Because in my family, it was never if you're going to college, it was what college you're going to, right? So I'm flying and there's this like magazine stuffed in the seat. And I pull it out. It's a Babson magazine. And I open it. And there's all these different kids who are building stuff. They're starting companies. They're starting all these different things. And I was like, I want to go there. I want to go there. That's why I want to go to college. So I really chose Babson because it was the school that was basically teaching what I was already doing when I was in sixth grade. So I thought, why not go there? So I applied to five different schools. I applied to Syracuse University. I applied to Bryant University. I applied to New York University, NYU. I applied to Babson. And then I applied, I think it was the last one was Bentley University. And I got rejected from all of them except Babson. So I was like, well, dang,
All
thank you,
right.
God.
That's your sign.
I signed. Thank you. So I go. I go and I chose it, and it was one of the best decisions of my life because I had a chance to be in a school where people thought like me, they talked like me, and it was a global experience. You had kids from Dubai, kids from Germany, kids from China. It was amazing. I really think if I hadn't gone to Babson, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah. Everything happens for a reason, right? You can look at that story one of two ways. Either, hey, I was rejected from all these great schools, or that's just where I was meant to be. That was just some divine, right, intervention saying, this is the place for you. I know you might not understand it at the moment, but just trust me on this. And sure enough, it worked out. So Babson's a great place. I can't say enough good things about the administrators and the students on campus. They're really fantastic, truth be told. And so, what really led you to become a mental health advocate and a youth speaker?
Right. So this is the part of my story, right, where my life takes a turn because although I get to Babson And I'm thinking, holy crap, I'm on top of the world. Like
Mhm.
I find out it's like the number one school in the country for this for teaching entrepreneurship. And I'm like, yo, like I've made it. I was looking at my mom and dad. I'm like, mom and dad, look, I've made it. And what that really was underneath all of that was, oh, now I can finally be enough because there was always this void I had of not being enough. And I would turn to things like being an athlete in high school and middle school, being a student. Like, even though I wasn't good at it, I had to work very hard to get good grades. Then it was starting all these different businesses. I started a teacher business. I started a nonprofit where I was like donating gently used shoes to kids in need. I got sponsored by Reebok. It was like this whole thing. And then I get to Babson and I'm like, I've made it. But that void was still there because suddenly now I'm surrounded by valedictorians. I'm surrounded by sons and daughters of billionaires. And I'm like, yo, I don't fit either one of those buckets. So then I had that voice in my head telling me like, nope, you're not enough. Like you're not enough. And I start trying to go figure out, okay, how can I feel enough? I was trying to fill that void. So I reached for the external. And that external was I'm going to go to parties. I'm going to be a socialite. I'm going to socialize everywhere and be a social butterfly. I'm going to reach for relationships. I thought relationships would be it. So my junior year of college, I got myself into a romantic relationship. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, we're watching TV together, we're playing video games, we're walking to class together. I'm like, yo, mom, I found the one. This is it. I'm gonna marry her. And it turned out to be one of the most toxic, abusive relationships
Oh,
of my life,
oh,
truly. And at the lowest point when we broke up, she actually assaulted me and she was arrested. And at that point, I'm a junior going into my senior year. My last, actually, it was actually my last semester of college, of my senior year. And I felt like the world was over. You know, how do you live life if you have this victim or this victim mentality or this label of being called the victim of domestic violence? How do you continue? And I didn't know how. So I thought the world would be a lot better place without me there. Through divine intervention, I truly believe that. I got help, and I was actually sent to a hospital, and I was hospitalized for having mental health challenges and suicidal ideation. And in this hospital, I'm learning all of these things. I'm learning how to better cope with your anxiety. I'm learning really the things I wish I learned back when I was in sixth grade and fifth grade and even second grade, feeling like I didn't fit in.
yeah,
And the question I had was like, why am I 22 years old at the time learning about this stuff? Why isn't this taught in schools? Why isn't this taught in middle school, high school, colleges? So now I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna take my journal because I'm a copious note taker. I'm gonna take my journal and I'm gonna share it with someone I know. But I'm like, I can't go see people because my last day of the program that I was in, well, that was the start of the global pandemic. And I'm like, oh, golly. So now I take my journal and I put it into a book. My first book was published, I Have Anxiety, So What? And that started my journey of helping more people that were like me, anxious achievers, whether they had anxiety, depression, suffer from perfectionism, learning all of this information I was taught in the program. And it made mental health education not clinical, but conversational.
yeah.
And my mission is to really just inspire that one student to not feel the way that I did, alone, defeated, and ashamed. And I want them to help them feel more seen, heard, and safe.
That's really good. I like that a lot. And I'm sure you're reaching hundreds, if not thousands, of
Yeah.
students with your message. And the motto that you're sending is that students can't thrive if they don't feel safe to be themselves. Now,
Yes.
everybody who's listening, we understand physical safety.
Yes.
That makes sense to us. But what is emotional safety? What does that really mean to you?
Yeah, it's a great question. You know, when I think about emotional safety, I could use the clinical definition. I could say that,
Hmm.
but I don't think that's going to hit the audience. And what it comes down to is how are you able to name your emotions, your thoughts, the things that you think and feel on a day-to-day level without shame or judgment? And not only that, in a bigger sense, how do you feel safe within your own skin? Because for me, when I was a kid, I couldn't do either one of those. When I felt anxious, I personify my anxiety voice. I have a character, I call him Ace. And for me, he's a heavy-set black man with the gold chains and a jumpsuit. And he's saying things like, you're a piece of crap, like, I hate you, like, you're worthless, like, just do this. And That can be very aggressive. And what it came with is every time I felt anxious, I would feel like I'm a bad person. And that's what shame tells you. Guilt is I did a bad thing. I'm not a bad person. Shame is you did a bad thing. You are a bad person. And it's only happening to you. So for me, when I go back to emotional safety, it's the ability to acknowledge these things, but not actually take on this burden of just because you think this doesn't mean you are this.
hmm
Make sense?
Yeah, makes perfect sense to me. A lot of the college students who are listening right now, they're dealing with anxiety, they're dealing with stress. Are there any simple, actionable steps that they can take right now in order to manage these feelings of anxiety and stress that they're feeling on a daily basis?
Yeah, it's the number one thing I learned is we always do this thing. Whenever I speak to students, the number one question I get is how do I get rid of anxiety? How do I get rid of it? How do I just make it go away? Well, newsflash, it's not about making go away. It's about learning better ways to coexist with it. It's learning better ways to take action with the anxiety. And that's a core part of my teaching is the fact that when you feel anxious, it doesn't make you a bad person. It actually is really trying to indicate that you should probably pay attention to this area of your life. So for instance, if you feel anxious about a class, feel anxious about a test coming up, it's probably an indication that you probably should prepare. So the second thing I always say is for you, when you can have the awareness and acknowledging that the anxiety is there. Second thing is, okay, where do I feel it? Do I feel it in my chest? Do I feel it in my stomach? Do I feel it in my face? There's a cool tactic that I call the 5 second countdown, the five senses countdown. It's what are 5 things you can see? What are 4 things you can hear? What are 3 things you can smell? What are 2 things you can taste? And what's like one thing you can like touch? So like maybe it's the tag in the back of your t-shirt. Doing something like that when you're actually in a sense of a panic can kind of take your focus off of the anxiety racing thoughts and back to the present moment, which is so essential. But the last thing I want to say is get in community with somebody else. Talk about it. The more you internalize it, you think it's only happening to you, it's only further feeding the shame spiral. So finding a therapist on campus, which I didn't know this at the time, but most universities offer counseling for free. Free
Yep.
99.
Yep.
And I didn't know that. Free 99 is the best price around. So you can seek out a therapist in your wellness center. Those 3 things I would definitely recommend to any student who I work with.
Yeah, excellent tips, and you're absolutely right. I mean, just use that free counseling. Your tuition is paying for that person to sit in that office. So you might as well use that benefit, right? I mean,
Yes.
what the heck? You're paying for
Paying for it. You're paying
it.
for it. Utilize it.
Utilize
Utilize it.
it, man. Oh man, yeah. It's something that we need to do more often for sure, especially the men too. And when I think about men, vulnerability is often seen as something that is a weakness in our society. I remember my mom distinctly having that conversation with me as a kid because I was crying about something, and she was like, it was at a party, and I know exactly where I was. And yeah, she pulled me aside and she's like, "Hey, boys don't cry, and so you need to get over this." And I'm like, what? And so that was taught to me from a very young age. So how do you redefine what strength looks like, and what does mindful masculinity really look like in practice?
Yeah, it's a big part of my keynotes. So actually, the thing I love so much about my keynotes is it's storytelling.
Mhm.
Storytelling is a great way to create empathy, which is the anecdote of shame. So I love when I get the chance to go on stage and I'm quite literally showcasing vulnerability. And one of the main pieces of feedback I get from male students who are in the audience, they come up and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like I didn't know I could talk about this stuff." Because to your point, when we were kids, we're told that like boys don't cry,
Yeah.
even terrible things like stop, that's gay, or you're being sensitive, and it's like all of these things. And what I come back to is vulnerability is not exclusive to any gender nor sexual orientation. It's a human birthright. So really understanding that first and foremost, that's a fundamental truth. So what I say is you can be vulnerable. It doesn't have to be you go on a stage like this and talking to 1,000 people, But what's one way in your small day-to-day life that you can do? What's one tiny action? And what I always recommend is going back to our previous question, is seeking out a counselor.
Yeah.
You don't gotta go in there being like, I'm here to solve my anxiety. You can simply say, look, I want to be here, but I don't know how to be here. Like, I don't know how to be here. Can you help me?
Hmm.
You just even saying that out loud is you changing all those beliefs you have in your head of saying that you are weak, you are sensitive, because vulnerability is not a weakness. It's the ultimate sign of strength.
Hmm. I mean, you're
Really.
talking about seeing a counselor, but you and I both know as men that there's a lot of stigma around going to seek help. If you're seen at the counseling center on campus, you're basically seen as broken, as less than, that you're not able to cope with the demands at college for whatever reason. So, how can we overcome that stigma that exists about going to see a therapist?
That's a great, I mean, I feel like for me in my personal life, how I've navigated that is that I understand that those things that were told of me were how those people really saw themselves. And that's none of
Mm,
my business. Like it's such a it's not it's a lot easier said than done. But when I think about all those people that said, "Oh, boys don't cry," or "You're being hypersensitive," that's really a reflection of things they were taught about themselves. They have nothing to do with my actual reality. So it's like really reminding yourself of that. When people say these things of like, oh, you're a broken man. Oh, okay. Is that what you think about yourself? That's not my story. I'm becoming. I'm trying to get healed. You can stay over there and you could keep that mentality. But for me, I'm going to choose me. And that's what I come back to is like, how can you treat yourself like someone who you're responsible of taking care of? Because when you think about it through that lens, not to say that those other opinions don't matter, but those other opinions that are negative are really a reflection of their reality, not your own.
mm-hmm.
We tend to project our hurt onto other people,
Yeah.
and that's what that comes down to. So for men out there who are probably experiencing people in your life telling you that, remember that it's really them reflecting or projecting onto you what they really think about themselves, and
Mm-hmm.
that's none of your business.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I appreciate that perspective. I really struggled my first semester of freshman year just making friends. I went to a school that had 30,000 students, and I'm like, this is just so overwhelming to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even know where to begin. I can't even scratch the surface here. And I just remember going to class and coming back and sleeping and eating and gaining a bunch of weight because all I was doing was eating. It was really just difficult for me because it seemed like everybody on campus was like perfectly paired with their roommate at the dorm, and I didn't have that. And so I'm looking around going, oh boy, this is going to be really difficult. Everybody's eating, with their roommate and hanging out and having a good time. And I'm just like, where's my crew? And luckily, my second semester freshman year, I found the fraternity, and it was up from there because I found my crew. I found my people. I needed that support. So, for anybody who might be feeling lonely on a college campus, how can students build authentic friendships on a college campus and find that support system?
Oh, I think for one, it's very important to acknowledge how valid that is. Like when you go to college, it's a huge life transition.
Yeah.
If you didn't have these feelings, I'd be shocked. Like I'd be shocked. Like I think that is a very common experience. So it's really trying to firstly acknowledge that this is real. I mean, I've just come to this new place where I just left this high school. And let's be honest, when you leave high school, you're really leaving people that you probably have been with since you were in first or second grade.
Correct.
Now you're in this whole new place.
Right.
It makes sense why you're feeling this way. You don't make it seem like it's only happening to you. It's happening to other people too.
Yeah.
Second thing is the benefit, you mentioned it already, fraternities and clubs. I think that's actually a sociological principle. Like, I can't speak to your experience, but for me, I loved playing video games. I loved playing basketball. I loved writing, and I loved talking about business. So the benefit about college is based on what your interests are, those clubs exist. So how can you go to the club fair and just go to a meeting? Like just sign up for all the different clubs. You don't gotta stay members to all of them. But that first week or first 2 weeks where you have that club fair, go sign up for a club and then challenge yourself to show up to a meeting. And then when you get there, this is where it gets tactical into the actual in the groove and in the dirt with it. And you see someone who you want to talk to. I know the anxiety. Oh my gosh, they're there. What do I say? Find something on their body, yes, on their body, and give them a compliment.
Mm.
When you give that person a compliment, you are kind of disrupting the behavioral thought patterns in their own mind because they're like, oh, thanks. And you're not making it about you, you're making it about them. You're taking the attention off yourself, putting it onto them. You're saying, I like your shoes, I like your necklace, where'd you get it? Just had a conversation. Now, next big thing. What do I say? What do I say? Da 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 da. You're going to ask two questions, and then you're going to lead with something, or you're going to follow it up with actually something about yourself. So if we're talking, I'd be like, Dr. Mike, I love your microphone. Where'd you get it from? Like, Staples, Best Buy.
Yeah.
How long you had it for? I got it about a month ago. Wow, I was actually a month ago, I was thinking about starting a podcast. Now we're having a conversation, right? And that's how you start to build this actual thing. The club gets you in the door. The two questions build a connection.
Love it. Really, really good tip. I think that's fantastic. Well done. In the fraternity and sorority life community, I think, especially as I look at, like, let's say, sorority life, Instagram accounts, TikTok accounts, there's so much pressure to fit in or to appear perfect, right? That I have to have the perfect body. I got to be driving this, convertible BMW, like the whole thing. You're looking at this stuff, you're like, man, it looks like everything's so put together. So, how can students embrace all of their imperfections? We know that's not real. We know there are filters and other things. How can we embrace our imperfections and still feel like we belong here?
Hmm. Start small. Start small. I think when we think about self-love or self-care or even just healing in a positive way, in any sense, we think it has to be this big mountain, this big mountain you got to overcome.
Mhm.
Make it a hill. Make it a hill. I would, if I were you, I'd not you, but the person listening to this show and watching this show, I'd make a list of all those imperfections you think you have and you believe you have. Well, maybe you don't like your voice. Maybe you don't like the way that you look in the mirror. Maybe you don't like the shape of your body, the shape of your head, whatever it is. Write it down. Because I honestly find that like stress and anxiety is found in the vague, not the specific. So you make it specific, call it out. Then really realize that you're not the only person that probably has a voice they don't like. You're not the only person that probably has a misshaped head or a misshaped face, whatever it is. And the other thing too is to talk about it. Talk about this more. I think the reason why my book is also called I Have Anxiety, So What? I was so embarrassed about my anxiety. Like it made me sweat in all the wrong places. It made me do things I didn't want to do. Like I remember one time I was doing a college presentation about how the Kardashians could be hired by Calvin Klein's jeans to help move more product based on their social media influence. And I get up there, I start stuttering. I start stuttering, I black out. And I'm sweating in between my legs. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, they think I just peed on myself. And I remember going back to my seat, thinking all the worst thoughts. But then I started to tell my mom about it. And then I told my best friend Hanson about it. And those imperfections they stopped feeling so big because Hanson was like, yo, because he went to Babson too. He was like, I actually did the same. I had the same thing happen to me when I was there. How can you then create empathy around these things?
Mhm.
Because the shame is just going to keep you isolated and alone. So then how do you write this down, make it specific, and then share about it with somebody, a trusted person in your life?
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to help create this empathy in your life and not feel like it's only happening to you.
Really nice, Wes. I really enjoyed the conversation here today. And, my big weakness is good food. I love traveling all over the country when I'm speaking and finding the best restaurants in town. And I do get to the Dallas-Fort Worth area quite
Yep.
often. And so I'm wondering, where should I go for great food the next time I'm in town?
Ooh, for great food the next time you are in town. Okay, I have an unpopular opinion. The people, when I say this, don't come for me in the comments. Don't come for me. Don't tell Dr. Mike that why did you have this guest say this on the podcast? Raising Cane's. Let me explain.
Okay.
Let me explain. Let me explain. I love Raising Cane's. I love it from a business perspective and the taste of the food. I love it. But if you want authentic Dallas cuisine, I'm still learning about all these different places myself. But there is this place. I forgot the name, so I'm not gonna shout it out right now. But I would say overall, you need to find Texas barbecue. You have to try it.
Yes.
It's a staple here. And if you happen to be in town during the months of September through October, you have to come to the state fair.
Okay.
The food there is insane. They do this biscuit chicken thing. I don't even know. It just all these foods that shouldn't go together, they do, and it's amazing.
Yes, and it's usually deep fried too. That's the
Yeah.
other common denominator.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, the barbecue is very, very good in Dallas Fort Worth. You really can't mess that up. So go and find a barbecue joint for sure. The Raising Cane's, I don't know. I think I might have to disagree with you on this one, only because I like the way that they cook the chicken. I think it's good. But here's the thing. You gotta spice up that chicken. You gotta give it some spices, some herbs,
I
something.
know.
You can't just give me a plain chicken with no spices and herbs and no taste. Come
You're not.
on, man. They got to spice up that chicken. You go to
I know.
KFC and they got all those herbs and spices and it makes it taste good. But Raising Cane, this is the most vanilla chicken I've ever had. Where's the spices?
I have my own hot sauce to it.
Uh,
So I do that. I have a whole thing because you're right. It's plain Jane.
it's plain
It's vanilla.
Jane. It's just too plain for me, bro.
But I have the spices at home. You know what I mean?
He's taking his Raising Canes at home. He's doctoring it up with all the condiments to make it taste good. It's got to taste good right out of the kitchen. Come on now, Raising
You're not
Canes, do
wrong.
better. Do
I
better, Raising Canes. Give me some herbs and spices, please. I beg of you. I love the restaurant. I love the atmosphere is good. I like the way that it comes out. It's crispy. It's good, but just give me some taste for God's sakes. Oh, all
I'm
right.
about to letter to the CEO.
Right to the CEO, please, please. And then I will support you. But until then, I can't. I just can't do it. All right. So if our college student listeners, if they want to bring you in to speak on their college campus about mental health, if they want to buy your book, where should they go to connect with you and get all of the things?
Yes, so you can come enter my universe, my little world of things at weswoodson.com. So that's WESWOODSON.com. And then follow me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn. Let's see, where else am I? All those places at Wes Woodson. And we can bring the You Were Always Enough tour to your students to help your students reactivate lasting self-confidence. So I'm grateful to be here and I look forward to connecting.
That sounds good. Go to weswoodson.com and go and get all of the things. Bring Wes to your college campus. And what can I say, Wes? Thank you so much for being vulnerable, for sharing all this great information with us today. We really appreciate it.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. I'm happy to serve where I can. And this ain't the last time. This ain't the
Yeah, it
last time.
won't be the last time, I promise you. To our audience, if you enjoyed this conversation with Wes, I want you to like it on social media and I want you to share it with every college student that you know because his words need to get to them. So we appreciate you listening and we'll see you on the next episode of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Bye for now.